Hi there, I'm Emily. I'm a GP in Dorset and an early career researcher with the Southampton Primary Care Research Department. I represent the early career researchers on the REACH committee, which is aiming to support healthcare researchers across Wessex get involved in research. I've been asked just to tell you a little bit about my journey into clinical research. How did I decide it was for me? During medical school, I found critical appraisal tutorials challenging and sadly was not inspired by scientific research. But after my fourth year, I took an opportunity to intercalate a Masters in Public Health, and that included a research trip to Kenya. This really opened my eyes into the different aspects of clinical research. I enjoyed completing my research dissertation into parental care seeking behaviour in under fives, and that was using qualitative methods. Then throughout my junior clinical training, I felt I was always trying to apply these skills to small quality improvement projects or audit attempts, but time pressures of clinical rotas and then that inevitable rotation every 4 to 6 months meant I never quite got my teeth into anything. Even before I started training in Dorset as a GP, I felt immediately welcomed by the teams involved in postgraduate training in Wessex. They encouraged me to explore the range of academic training opportunities, and an academic clinical fellowship, or ACF, felt like the best training opportunity that would give me the opportunity to have protected time and then progress my clinical academic skills whilst also maintaining clinical contact during the week. This means that this varied working pattern is something that I want to now continue in my future career. I know that I love clinical work first, so I'd never lose that, but having an academic interest allows me to challenge myself in a different way and hopefully make a meaningful difference to future clinical care for patients. How did I make this happen? I was lucky enough to be appointed a primary care ACF, although still not 100% sure why that happened. I think it's because I was enthusiastic and I'd built my CV with an interest in clinical scholarship. So this included a few quality improvement projects, some audit, teaching medical students and presenting my work at a few conferences. A career as an academic GP ties all this together, and I think it reflects what clinical academic careers mean to me. It's being a clinician with a portfolio of interests and skills that enables me to question about clinical care that's going on around me and then create the evidence that will improve patient outcomes. What were the challenges I faced? Initially, it was lack of awareness. Coming out of foundation training, I didn't really know about what opportunities were available. It was only after speaking to colleagues that I discovered that there are a multitude of paths that other people have taken. That's why primary care particularly appealed. You can really have that varied scope of interest as a generalist and also have the flexibility to follow something else alongside your clinical role. I was really inspired by hearing stories of other clinical academics who've been involved in research. And I think that's a key way to increase awareness about academic careers. It's just listening to other people's stories. The REACH initiative aims to make these stories more accessible to you, and then you can be inspired to follow in the footsteps of some of our great local leaders in research. Time is always a challenge. That's why a formal academic post is great, because it gives you that protected time. However, I think if you're clever about study leave, you can always incorporate your academic courses, and there are some really great ones in the local Wessex area. You just need to be quite sensible with your training time and your training budget. Imposter syndrome. I don't think that will ever really leave me, and it certainly made me feel quite anxious about applying for roles and volunteering for opportunities in the past. But I think it's like with all experiences, the longer you spend in an environment, the more confident you become. I found the Wessex academic community very approachable. Even as a junior academic, I've been encouraged to get involved, and I always feel included, even when talking to very eminent professors. What has helped me get to where I am now? I think finding a mentor is a really important part of progressing a portfolio career. It can be quite confusing to navigate training outside the usual treadmill of clinical care. And having people more senior to you who have done a similar sort of portfolio role is quite useful to bounce ideas off, because there's no one correct path to follow. Making connections, I think, also really helped me and helped me move forward, especially pursuing particular interests. Your immediate supervisor might not necessarily share an interest of yours, but they might know someone else who does. And just asking someone to send that introduction email is so helpful, especially when you're early on in your career. even just making that connection via a brief Zoom chat, even if it doesn't lead to anything immediately, might be quite a valuable thing for a future collaboration. Through the Wessex Reach initiative, we're hoping that we can facilitate some of those connections by bringing together health researchers across the region. Why is research good for my career? I think clinical medicine is tough at the moment. Having the variety of academic work really helps me to make my working week enjoyable. It means I can take a breath, slow the pace a bit, use a different part of my brain for 2 days a week. And I think it's vital for sustainability in the healthcare workforce. It prevents burnout and allows flexibility in that work-life balance. I think it's probably also making me a better clinician. I feel more confident to search for evidence to base my clinical decisions on. I think I'm better able to explain risks and benefits to patients, and I feel able to identify areas of clinical practice that I think need improvement, and then I think I've got the skills to actually instigate some of that improvement. Is there anything that I wish I had known or had available to me at the start? I think this is what the Reach initiative actually is going to really help to fill the gap for. When I started out, I struggled to find out where the resources were, how was I going to incorporate research into my career. So I think improving awareness about the possibilities of a clinical academic career is key. Making the local resources and courses available become more accessible to junior trainees is important, and creating opportunities for people to make those connections across the region. I think the fact that Wessex is the first regional incubator with the NIHR demonstrates why this local network is so supportive of clinical academics, especially earlier on in your career. So what are my future plans? So I'm currently settling into my role as a newly qualified salaried GP, and alongside that I work with the WISE GP, which is encouraging clinicians to engage with scholarship skills in general practice in particular. In the future, I do aim to apply for further academic funding and hopefully end up with a portfolio career as an academic GP.